Hi. Okay, to get right into it, just summarize chapter one. So the first thing that I took away was how the author wanted to define 10xers, and basically that was just identifying those companies that are, for instance, doing 10 times better than their competition. And one of those examples was like Southwest Airlines, and how over the course of those various years from around the 70s, they said, to like 2002 when they conducted their experiment and they found different characteristics in those different companies that were 10xers, and how Southwest Airlines, for instance, uh, like whether they were faced different crises, and then hiccups along the road, and how they managed to stay relevant in comparison to like other companies. And so that kind of defines how what does it take to build a great company, and that's basically what the author wanted, or I felt that was coming across in chapter one. And they talked about obviously other books that that they have these same core values, and so the author just wanted to make sure that he wasn't just reiterating old things from previous books, and that really got across the new ideas that he's trying to push. So for the second part of chapter one, I thought when they were talking about entrenched myths, and so the first thing that I liked or wanted to highlight was how they said radical change on the outside requires radical change on the inside, and they thought contrary finding was that these 10xers companies had changed less in comparison to their counterparts and their rivals. So for this type of situation, I kind of, at least in my experience, I've seen things where this is not true, and really where uh, like for instance, a good culture within the company or in the baseball teams I've worked for, having a strong staff in the back in the concession areas and making sure everything's running smoothly really does affect the outside product and how people see. Let's say, for instance, if we have a poor food go out and that shows a poor display of what's going on the inside, then the customer is gonna have complaints and have different viewpoints on the outside of what's really going on. So, I mean, it's just my case, for instance, I view that. So, that entrenched myth may be true to some companies and true to different. So, and at least that's what the book said for those 10xers. Going into chapter two, a little longer, obviously. I thought the quote that caught my eye mostly, I wrote down, was discipline in essence is consistency of action. So, to me, what that means is having the discipline for these companies, especially when you encounter new risks and different tribulations along the way, maintaining the same action or willingness to be prepared and willing to be above the curve on certain aspects really displays that consistency of action. So developing those habits for companies can make all the difference, rather than just standing idly by and just letting things happen around you and affecting your company. So regarding the story between Adamson or Scott, which I thought was a very interesting story, I never really heard about before, about the, I guess, this coverage of South Pole. I felt I'm more aligned with an Adamson, though Scott does have some qualities that I may have in regards to maybe sometimes I can do more due diligence in certain things, aspects, but more of my qualities align with Adamson in the sense that I usually like to prepare ahead for certain things. Like, I hate being late to school, so I always like to make sure that I leave about 20 minutes early, just in case if I face hiccups along the way, that I have enough time set aside that I'll be prepared. And and that's just doing your due diligence to be prepared. I felt that's what Adamson did. And so Scott, even though that sometimes that may happen where I do tend to sides sometimes with Scott, I feel overall I'm more of an Adamson in the sense that I'm constantly being paranoid of certain things, and that kind of plays into the second part of productive paranoia, and that's the one I chose to highlight most, is because that kind of fits a line mostly with me. I'm usually very concerned and worry about certain aspects, whether that's little minuscule aspects of a project or work assignments that can just stretch all the way to like the biggest thing, like a due date or whatnot. and that's just always how I feel. You control what you can control, and so you can do the most research and be prepared as much as you can for certain things, but sometimes that won't affect the outside things that might affect you. So as long as you can control the things that you can do, that's as best you can really do for being productively or being paranoia, having paranoia and being productive at the same time. So thank you.